Today, I've been reflecting on the difference between performing and learning. Now, we all want to show up as our best selves. We all want to perform well in things that matter to us and what we're doing, but we also need to be learning and improving. And with that, very often comes making mistakes. And I found for myself and working with high performers, how you deal with making mistakes, how you interpret those and learn from them dictates everything about how much success you're going to have in life. So we really need to understand what's going on when we're trying to perform, what's going on when we're trying to learn, and how do we deal with these things called mistakes that cause a lot of problems. So let's dive into it. So the first thing I've realized is that high performers often make more mistakes. Or if they don't make more mistakes, they're at least a lot less scared about making mistakes. They put themselves in environments where they can make mistakes because they interpret a mistake as something to learn from, something to get better. So most of us go through life in our comfort zone in most domains. And in your comfort zone, that's great for not messing up. It's great for performing at a decent level, but you're never stretching yourself. And with that, you're always going to be in this suboptimal learning state. All right, the high performers are always in a heightened learning state because they're always on the edge of what they can do and what they can't do. Now, as I was reflecting on this, I picked up the book, The Performance Paradox. And this is a very interesting book about the difference between these two states, performance versus learning. And it covered a section which was really interesting on the 4 types of mistakes. So I'm going to relate them in terms of how he described them. And then I'm going to relate them to myself, making these mistakes, and hopefully wrap it up so you guys can learn to use mistakes in a very valuable way. So the first type of mistake that we all make is sloppy mistakes. These are the ones that are frustrating. You feel like you should know better. You're like, why am I making this mistake? All right, it can be very simple stuff like clicking the wrong button. If you're a poker player, who I work with a lot, they call in a spot where they know their opponent's got them beat. It could just be any sloppy mistake in sport where you hit a ball out or do something that you shouldn't really be doing. I say really be doing as in you feel like you're above that. These are very frustrating. In everything we do, we have these sloppy mistakes that kind of creep in from time to time. So we want to find ways to eradicate those going forwards, which I'll get into. Next type of mistake we have, he calls high stakes mistakes. And these are ones where the mistake is caused by pressure. It's caused by being in a highly stressed state, high performance pressure. So for me, maybe playing sports and there's a lot on the line. Maybe it's a poker player who's playing high stakes and he's like nervous. Maybe it's you in a meeting with your boss or someone and you feel the pressure or expectations. But it's generally you care about performance and you mess up because the performance pressures are higher. All right, so there's a different type of mistake to a sloppy mistake. Right, this is more like a forced error compared to an unforced error. The next type of mistake we have, he calls aha moment mistakes. And these are ones that lead to a sudden insight. It's ones where maybe you realize what you were doing wasn't working. It's often like a lesson that you learn. Those kind of light bulb moments where you go, that's why this doesn't work. It might be you change your workout plan. All of a sudden, you get some benefits that you didn't really get. Or it could be you're having a strategy against a certain opponent, and by using that strategy and getting exploited, you realize, this doesn't work. Oh, wait a second, maybe that strategy would work better. So it's noticing your own approach wasn't working, but the mistake you're making leads to an insight later that you can actually use to improve. And without that insight, without making the mistake originally, you wouldn't have had that benefit of learning. All right, then the final one he talks about, the final mistake, which is the one that most people avoid, is a stretch mistake. And this is where you go out of your comfort zone. You try a new skill. You try and learn a new language. You try and do something different. As a poker player, as I use them as an example again, you shot a new level, or you play better opponents, or you're in sport and you go in a competition just above your current level. And now these mistakes are because you can't quite execute your strategy. There's new things going on. There's different stimulus. So you're bound to make mistakes in this environment. And this is the one where, of all of them, is the most avoidable because you can put yourself in environments where you don't need to stretch yourself, but it's also where the most learning occurs. And as I was reading the book this morning, I was reflecting, how can I internalize this for myself, but also create a nice little video for you guys to think about how you're going through life and how you're interpreting different mistakes and how you're learning from them. So for me, I'm going to use the example of paddle. I'm currently learning paddle at the moment, which that's like tennis in terms of a smaller tennis court with glass around it. I'm sure most people will be familiar, but it's a very fun sport. You play 2 against 2, and you learn to get better, the same way you would any sport. So for me, I played a lot last week, and I had a tournament on Friday, and I made a lot of sloppy mistakes. So for me, sloppy mistakes are return into the net, lob slightly too long, volley into the net or long. And these are sloppy mistakes. Mistakes at my level, I should be known better. I should be able to avoid a lot of them. And very frustrating, and they really, kind of annoy me that I do them. So after I reflected on the game after, I looked at what caused this. So a lot of mistakes, you're like, what can I learn? So for me, I went to the gym before that. So I did an upper body workout, so my muscles were quite sore that day. Mentally, I wasn't that locked in. I noticed like in between points, I was kind of drifting, almost like daydreaming a little bit. And I wasn't like locked in to all the points. And I was also trying to win points a little bit too quickly. Me and my friend in the tournament thought we could do very well. And we're like, right, let's really be aggressive today. And I was rushing points, rushing my shots and making unforced errors. So now, just on that reflection, although they were very sloppy mistakes, they're the easiest to eradicate. So I can go, right, there's things I can do next time I play to eradicate all of them. Now, I will not eradicate all sloppy mistakes because that's almost impossible, especially at my stage of learning, but I can eradicate a lot of them just by being more mindful, preparing better, and having my kind of mind in the right place. Then a few days later, I made a different type of mistake, which led to an aha moment where we were playing a team that were very aggressive, very strong net players, and they were smashing overheads out the court. So quickly we started to realize, if we do a lob and it's not far enough, it's game over and we lose the point. So a bit of fear kicked in. We weren't sure what strategy to use against them, and we stopped doing lobs. Then on one point, they hit it deep in the court, and I hit a lob by accident really high in the air, like mishits the shot, and it goes over their heads, bounces high, and hits the back glass, and they didn't know how to react. They kind of panicked when it hit the glass and did a bad shot. So we quickly realized, wait a second, these guys might not be that good off the glass. We're playing to their strengths. We later realized they were tennis players, so they were amazing at net play, but they hadn't adapted to the paddle court. So this realization from a slightly mishit shot, we're like, right, let's just make everything deep, everything against the glass. Let's make them play the glass. So all of a sudden, a aha moment sparked with realizing we could change our strategy based on that. So for me, a lot of aha moments come from what I was doing wasn't quite working. I'm playing to a strength when I should be playing to a weakness. If I'm playing opponents, what is their weakness that I can exploit? And being able to make changes because of that. So a mistake can often, you can't plan it, but often can lead to an aha moment when you see why what you were doing wasn't working. And the next type of mistakes I've been making is stretch mistakes. Lately, I've been working with a coach to work on my overheads, especially my attacking smash overheads. And in training, it goes okay. But in game, I make a lot of mistakes, a lot of overthinking, technically not quite executing the shot right, but I know I've got to get reps in to practice that shot. So in game, I make a lot of mistakes by trying something new, trying a skill I haven't quite mastered. I also make what are called stretch mistakes when I'm playing tougher opponents, which I do often. So in paddle, there's a kind of whole ranking system in most places, there's apps with scoring, and you can choose three things. You can play players who are at a level slightly below you, which means you'll win most often, but you won't grow too much. You can play against people at the same level, so very similar skill level, be very competitive. You might win half the time, and you will grow at a steady rate. Or you can jump in at the deep end. You can play people better than you, or you can enter a tournament just above your current skill level, and you will almost certainly lose a lot, but you will learn so much. And myself, I've taken the approach of playing with better players, playing just above above the skill level that I'm currently at, and really starting to play better players and learn from that process. And for me, one, the ego gets absolutely destroyed, but I learn much, much faster when I'm trying to adapt to other players. So the stretch there is get out of your comfort zone, learn. And what happens in these environments, you quickly realize what your weaknesses are because better players exploit it. They attack your weaknesses. So if you've got a bad backhand, for example, all of a sudden 90% of shots are coming to your backhand. You're like, oh, they keep playing to my backhand. Or you can't hit a good overhead. Every ball is coming flying in the air. So you're forced to confront those weaknesses and take on those stretch challenges. All right, so that was the other one that's been coming through as well. And then the high stakes mistakes, so far, I've been doing quite well in the bigger points, the break points, the match points, so it hasn't came up too much. But still, sometimes I overthink. I'm playing some tough opponents, and the pressure of that scenario, playing against good players, gets too much. I play a bit passively, don't go for my shots, maybe doubt myself, and mistakes come up there as well. So yeah, I wanted to use that as an example because I think it's good to piece together the types of mistakes that happen in everyday life and how you can use those to grow, to get better. So the question I want to reflect on, and for you to reflect on, is, are you performing or are you learning? Now, there's an overlap of both, of course, always, but it does really make a difference when you're trying to choose which one takes a priority. So for example, let's say I want to perform and I'm playing in a paddle tournament at my level or below my level. Now, my mind is trying to focus on not making sloppy mistakes, maybe some aha moments that might come, but generally I'm trying to perform the best I can for my skill level. And I'm trying to look out for opportunities to execute my strategy the best I can. If I'm there to learn, it's very different. I'm probably going to be playing a tournament outside of my skill level, maybe against some friends who are better or a tournament high level. And now I need to have some stretch learning mistakes where, just not good at this shot. Or, some aha moments where my opponents put me in tough spots, some high stakes mistakes where the pressure of dealing with better players is putting me under pressure and I'm crumbling a bit. So it's a very different approach, in all honesty. And you're going to learn a lot more in these learning blocks or learning zones compared to a performance zone. And I feel like just understanding for yourself where you're aligning yourself throughout your kind of days and weeks is really important. And there's times where you 100% go, right, I just want to perform at my best today. And you can learn and reflect later. But other times you're like, you know what, this environment, should I really be pressuring myself to perform? So I work with a lot of poker players, and a lot of times they're looking to make jumps to the next level, jump to a higher stake, play higher opponents. And very often, if they don't do any work on this, they'll go into that new level with a performance mindset. I want to perform well, I want to beat everyone. When in reality, they're going into a learning zone. They're going into a new environment. They're going into a new state where they need to be picking up information, losing for a period of time whilst they learn. So yeah, it's a very good thing for me to for myself reflecting on as I learn my paddle and go for other things I'm trying to get better at. I think it's really applicable to almost anything, this performance and learning model. It's a good book, this one, Performance Paradox, very easy read if you want to dive into kind of performance versus learning zones. But yeah, hopefully you can take something away from this video. Let me know in the comments below which mistakes you struggle with the most. I'm always curious to know how you guys are going through your lives and dealing with the challenges that comes with trying to be a high performer. I'm sure many of you listening and watching can relate to being a high performer. And with that comes the pressure of trying to do your best and mistakes that creep in. So let me know in the comments below which mistakes you're currently dealing with the most or struggling with the most. I'd love to help you with that. All right, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.